The state rests, Your Honor.
The state admitted to having no direct evidence, but the state cannot even produce circumstantial evidence.
She had motive, she had opportunity, she had the means to do it. She's a diabetes counselor. She's a pharmacist. Putting all that together, there's more than enough evidence to convict.
I have to discuss with her right to testify in her own behalf in this case.
The defense begins calling witnesses this morning in the Ponzi scheme murder trial, and Natalie Cochran will be taking the stand. We're talking about what the jury needs to hear from her. And we've got multiple legal battles going on. They're taking over the Hollywood headlines, and we've got our LA insider to talk about the assault trial of A$AP Rocky and the dueling lawsuits of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Also coming up this hour, we're looking at the evidence against a teenage boy accused of killing both of his parents. So how likely is it that Collin Griffith killed his dad in self-defense and then was standing there when his mother fell on a knife? Plus, the Black Swan, Ashley Benefield, back in court in just minutes from now. She's asking for her freedom. We'll take it live when she does. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court, as we like to say around here? We got a great show planned, so let's get it going. Go ahead, grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. Counselor cult mom is at it again, asking the court to dismiss her homicide case in Arizona. The case where she's accused of conspiring with her brother to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. In a handwritten motion, chocked full of misspellings and inaccuracies, lawyer Lori tells the court that her speedy trial rights have been violated. Wrong. She also says that the only remedy is a complete dismissal. Wrong again. The state is within the statutorily required amount of time. And cult mom is just flat out wrong, especially when she complains in the motion about defense postponements. Cult mom, let me teach you a little thing about postponements. When you are the defendant and you request a postponement, that time doesn't count against the state's speedy trial clock. Why? Because they didn't delay it. You did. So, Counselor Cult Mom, I would suggest you sit down and think about having a real lawyer try your homicide case. Because no matter how many motions you file about this, guess what? Your case isn't getting dismissed. That's my opening statement on this Thursday. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
So you're coming from Washington State University?
Yeah.
And you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Brian Koberger in court this morning for a motions hearing in Idaho. That's going to start up at 11 a.m. Eastern time. In Florida, we've got a bond hearing scheduled for Ashley Benefield. Remember her? The Black Swan convicted of unlawfully killing her husband. That starts up at 8:30 a.m. And in Utah, we've got defendant Corey Richens back in court. She's got an evidentiary hearing. This could be really interesting. This is ahead of her murder trial. Court starts up at 12:30 p.m. Eastern in that one. Now, let's turn to our top story for you. The defense case begins in our next hour in the Ponzi scheme murder trial. Defendant Natalie Cochran indicating she plans to take the stand. Her son and her daughter are also expected to take the stand and testify for the defense. Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft is in West Virginia following the case and has more now on what we can expect.
Good morning. Natalie Cochran's defense team will begin presenting their case this morning. The state rested its case in chief on Wednesday. We can also tell you that Natalie Cochran herself, she did inform the judge that she intends to testify. Natalie was not being transparent with her husband, Michael, about the government contracting business they were involved with. This is according to the lead investigator on the case, who said Michael began to ask questions.
Michael Cochran discovered that there were aspects of the business, particularly related to the purchase or investment into contracts and the amount of money that investors were investing versus what he believed, what he had been told by the defendant. And more importantly, the promised return was much larger to those individuals than he had previously believed. And he was extremely upset by that.
And that's why prosecutors say Natalie killed her husband by injecting him with a lethal dose of insulin. But how, asked defense counsel, how was the insulin administered? The lead investigator said he could not answer that question. And some of the first witnesses expected to be called by the defense, the children of Michael and Natalie Cochran. That's the latest from here in Beckley, West Virginia. We'll send it back to you.
All right, our thanks to Kelly Craft for that early update. I got to tell you, my friends, one of the biggest moments for me was when the lead investigator was testifying about all of the evidence that they were taking from the home and inventorying everything. And Natalie Cochran made a point to point out to him a particular bottle of, you guessed it, insulin, and say to him that this insulin doesn't belong to them. It belongs to a neighbor's daughter, and they keep it at the house for the little girl in case she needs it. What do you think about that? Let me bring in our legal eagles. Now I got two high-profile criminal defense attorneys on the program, Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. Good morning to you both. Okay, let's talk about Natalie Cochran here. Is the state proving its case against her? You know, we know they've got the burden. She may seem suspicious, but I want to get your thoughts. Michael, would you start us off, please?
Good morning, Julie. Very circumstantial case, but obviously the defense thinks, hey, they may have done a decent job, and that's why they're going to put on their client as well as the children. Some good things and bad things. You know, when you put your client on the stand, obviously they're subject to cross-examination. For the most part, they're not professional witnesses like police officers, detectives, and crime lab people are for the prosecution. And it also the jury sometimes feels as though they have to weigh the both sides equally, and obviously that's not what the jury instruction is, and the burden always remains with the prosecution. But having said that, once you put a case on, there's always that danger that the jury's going to think, hey, who do we believe more? And that's always a concern.
Right, Michael. Thank you for that. John Phillips, to you next, please. Your thoughts on this one?
Now, I don't know the order of things this morning, but I would make sure the kids go first and see if it's even necessary that she testify. She's got a big burden today because, you know, if I'm the prosecutor in this case, because she was a pharmacist, because she counseled people on insulin, I'm almost making her an expert today. I'm going to spend a lot of time going through, you know, her and almost eliciting some expert testimony, and then, you know, going into detail about the Ponzi scheme and you know, trying to make her look like a fraud or a liar in front of that jury today. You know, those are the two big points that she's going to face by waiving her Fifth Amendment privilege.
Right, I appreciate it, John. I want to play you both a clip from Dr. Paul Uribe. So he's a fairly well-known forensic pathologist, had some involvement in the George Floyd case. So if our viewers at home recognize that name, it may be perhaps from that case. And he testified giving a second opinion on the autopsy of Michael Cochran. Let's listen to what he found.
Specifically, what is his manner of death?
Manner of death would be homicide, because there's no evidence that he administered insulin himself. People don't accidentally administer insulin to themselves or given.
We object at this time.
The objection there, okay. Michael J. Brown, what might you have said if you, back when you were a prosecutor, you get the defense objecting to your pathologist's opinion?
The first thing I would have said is, what are the grounds for the objection?
Right.
Listen, We can get experts. Any side can get an expert to say anything. I mean, that's clear. You can pay an expert. They can come in. They can testify and benefit your case. It's really about cross-examining that expert and having the ability from the defense standpoint to neutralize that expert. And I'm hopeful, and although I don't know, that the defense is also going to put their own expert on to counter what the prosecution said. Because if you can neutralize the expert, that's a big deal. And then it relies on, as John said, it's going to rely on Natalie's ability to convince that jury that she simply did not commit this crime.
Yeah, great points. I want to play another clip for you both. This is where Trooper Timothy Bledsoe, who's with the West Virginia State Police, talked about how it was Natalie Cochran who introduced the idea that Michael, her husband, was using insulin.
She indicated that, again, they had gone separate ways that morning and had returned home, and that upon returning home, Mr. Cochran had been sleeping on the couch for approximately 45 minutes to an hour, and that when he awoke shortly after that, he went into the kitchen and had collapsed. And also she introduced that in that interview that Michael Cochran was allegedly using insulin as part of a bodybuilding regimen.
Okay, so the idea that he's using insulin is coming from her. She's denying to own that bottle of insulin that they found in the house and belongs to a neighbor's kid. John Phillips, what do you think when you hear these bits of information about what Natalie Cochran is sharing to investigators after her husband's deceased?
Well, there was also some inconsistent statements about the insulin and where it came from, and some text messages, I think, about administration of insulin and acquisition of insulin. But her whole defense is essentially, my husband was insecure, he was doing all these things because of low testosterone or to become bulked up, and he just mixed it, and he probably tried to cut it with insulin, and that's what led to his death. But the evidence doesn't really support that. And anytime you're given inconsistent statements, particularly when you've been convicted as a liar, you got problems.
This is true. I'm so glad you mentioned that, my friend. So, speaking of her being convicted as a liar, this is one of those unique circumstances. You both know this, John and Michael. I want our viewers to know this ahead of time as we get ready to watch her on the stand. You can't always bring in someone's criminal history. There are restrictions. It's all, dependent on case by case, but generally it's not coming in, except for crimen falsi is the Latin term. So you have a field day when you're a prosecutor with all of the bad things. Michael J. Brown, so thinking about this lady getting up there, testifying today, I mean, I can't imagine how bad this is going to be when the prosecutor digs in and talks about all her deception and the fraud that she's committed. What do you think this is going to look like?
Well, Julie, that's what we hope for the prosecution. Prosecutors, unfortunately, as we all know, we were all there, don't have the ability to cross-examine as often as defense attorneys do. So now you have an individual who has this conviction, a Ponzi scheme, and the hope is for the prosecution that they don't just ask 5 or 10 questions about that, but they get into the real nitty-gritty details and talk about specific acts that she did to deceive and lie and cover up, because that's in essence what you want to show the jury she did in this case. So if they do it effectively and get into the details and really draw it out, I think it could be very, very effective.
Yes, I'm with you. I can't wait to see this. This is going to be one for the books. We'll leave it there for now, but I'm so glad you both are on the show today. Michael J. Brown, John Phillips, stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's coming up on Opening Statements.
He attacked me, my dad. And when he did, he tried to kill me with a knife, and then it was in Oklahoma, and he died. So, okay. Yeah. How was that? I shot him.
Yeah, that very composed 17-year-old there is accused of murdering his own mother just months after he killed his father in self-defense. We're breaking down the behavior of Collin Griffith. Plus, we've got Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's ongoing legal feud, and it's taking a new turn with some brand new video of the two of them on the set.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial. Coverage begins following jury selection on Court TV.
As hard as this choice is, we break the pattern. Or the pattern breaks us.
The ongoing legal feud between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni is what's trending in true crime this morning, as a brand new behind-the-scenes video may be shedding some light on what went wrong. Baldoni's lawyer released the footage showing the co-stars interacting while filming a slow dance scene in the movie. And we can hear Lively and Baldoni speaking to one another. They were out of character during some of those intimate moments. Take a look.
We don't shut up.
And Emily and I have we have these moments where
Staring. You just stare.
Literally we've done it for 5 minutes. It's like, I think you would find it terrifying. We just literally look at each other and
when
time.
I found a sociopath.
And time stops.
Yeah.
But that's just how it's been for us from the beginning.
No, we're like, oh my God, there's not enough time. I think we don't.
Oh.
And they score again.
No. It's like, oh my God, I forgot to tell you something else.
I think that's cute. You guys are really cute.
I think it's more than cute.
All right, so after the release of this video, Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, are now seeking a protective order against Baldoni's attorney for what they call retaliatory media campaign they say has been going on against them. So this morning, we're asking, after you watch the video, who do you think it helps, Lively or Baldoni? Let's bring in our power panel now. Still with me, attorneys John Phillips and Michael J. Brown. I want to welcome in entertainment reporter Kinsey Schofield. Good morning to you all. Kinsey, let me start with you, please. Who does this help?
I don't like either one of them after all of this. I'm overwhelmed with all of this negativity. The movie was so beautiful, and it had such an incredible message about, taking care of yourself and loving yourself. And, I feel like this has really muddied the beautiful message. I don't know if you know this, but the author of the book recently deleting her Instagram account, some of their other co-stars being harassed based on whose side. It's become such a toxic headline that I don't know if this benefits anyone, truly. I think it's a PR nightmare for both parties.
That's a really good point. Kinsey, I'm so glad you said that. I think a lot of our courties share your sentiments. A lot of people are just going, okay, this is nauseating, this back and forth, and then you watch it, and then it's kind of, maybe underwhelming is the word. Oh, I don't know. You're expecting to see, something horrible happen, and not really. So what do these two need to do? Go have a seat somewhere, separate from one another? John Phillips, let me go to you next. Who do you think the video helps?
I agree. It kind of helps and hurts both of them. But the bigger issue, and what Blake Lively's counsel is making, is, look, stop trying it in the media. One thing I've said on TV interviews and in court and meeting with clients is justice is spelled one way, but it's defined many different ways. And I'll ask the client, how's it defined to you? But it's criminal cases, it's civil cases, and it's the court of public opinion. But once we have a civil case and a criminal case in some instances, but a civil case, you got to shut up. because there's ethical rules that say you can't do or say anything that could potentially affect a jury, and when it's this big, people are leaning forward and listening, and so if one side is trying the case in the media more than the other, it's a problem. And so, this video coming out with the spin around it is kind of the source of the cease and desist and controversy.
I appreciate that, John. Yeah, great points. Ethically, there are rules that lawyers have to follow. They don't always follow them, but really appreciate that. That's important to keep in mind as this one progresses, and apparently these two sides keep going at each other. Michael J. Brown, last but not least, want to get your thoughts on the video and who you think it helps.
Julia, I'm just going to follow up on John's point. It's a great point. Cases are tried in the courtroom. They're not tried in the court of public opinion. And what happens often is the prosecutor and/or in a civil case, the plaintiff's attorney, they file the summons and complaint, they file the criminal charges, the indictment, and then they hold press conferences and they speak to the press and the media about what it is that they're claiming happened. So, you can throw the stone and then they run the other way and they don't want the defense side to defend their client. So it's a fine line. The defense has an absolute right to defend their client, and they're simply trying, in a lot of cases, to level the playing field. But as John indicated, and as you indicated, Julie, yes, there are ethical constraints, and you certainly don't want to cross that line. But at the end of the day, what's most important is to get people in that courtroom who are fair and impartial, are not familiar with the case, and can render a verdict free of all of that media stuff, so to speak.
Right. Excellent points from you all. Michael, thank you for that. So we'll leave it here for now. I'm sure we'll be talking about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni in this feud when we see the next motion drop. But for right now, let's turn to another big trending story. So jury selection is going to continue this morning in the trial for hip-hop star A$AP Rocky. His real name is Rakeem Mayers, and he declined a final deal from LA prosecutors to spend 180 days in jail. He could be looking at up to 24 years in prison if he's convicted. Now, the Grammy-nominated rapper is accused of shooting at a former friend of his near a Hollywood hotel back in the year 2021. Now, he will not be the only notable person in the courtroom. No. His attorney, Joe Tacopina, once represented President Donald Trump. He represented him in New York in his hush money case. He's a New York attorney, and A$AP Rocky's from New York, by the way. And leading the prosecution team, another high-profile attorney, Deputy DA John Lewin, who all of our courties are going to remember him from prosecuting Robert Durst. Really great attorney. He's also spoken out loudly against the Menendez brothers' potential release. And so we've got some heavy hitters in the courtroom. These attorneys that are seasoned, they're used to high-profile cases, and they're all rearing to go. So how's this going to look? How will the celebrity attorney factor play in? John Phillips, I want to go to you here. You're known as a celebrity attorney. Talk to me here. What do you think?
The battle of the Titans, right? I love this case. I've got a similar case. Mine was fatal, double homicide in the YNW group. So YNW Melly is alleged to have shot and killed.
We covered that one. Yes.
Two of his friends, and I represent the families of one of his friends. And so this has parallels, and we are seeing dangerous levels of use of guns and murders around the rap game again. And I think that's one of the chief reasons it's being prosecuted. Certainly you have a victim, but in a high profile victim, but going back to your point, you've also got Rihanna, who's married to A$AP Rocky. You've got all of this kind of celebrity, which at the end of the day is a bit of a distraction, and the jury's going to, be looking left and right, but conducting voir dire, conducting jury selection with this and saying, do you know these people? Are you familiar? Are you going to give, did you watch court TV? Did the fact that he represented Donald Trump, sway you if you were aware? And so there's going to be so much to make sure that you've got a fair and even balanced scales that go into before the first witness testifies.
Right, John. Great points. Kinsey Schofield, let me go to you. We're in Hollywood. Celebrities in Hollywood know you, and you do podcasting and interviews and things. Come on our show and give insight. How do you think the whole celebrity factor is going to play in? I mean, all things considered, right? The defendant, Rihanna, everything. The attorneys. What do you see happening?
Well, I think it's very similar to the Blake and Baldoni case, where we have high-profile lawyers who are skilled at managing the media narratives, framing their clients positively while discrediting, the opposing argument. So I think that it's very similar to the Blake and Baldoni case, because we have two individuals that are just so sharp when it comes to engaging with the media. It boosts the credibility, certainly, when you have renowned attorneys. They bring credibility and expertise. And your audience, like you said, they're going to recognize some of these individuals and be so much more engaged because they're fond of them. They like their perspective, and they've agreed with them previously. So, I just think their reputations can draw attention, more media attention, and make the trial much larger than it potentially could have been if it had been another attorney. And that could influence the jury members indirectly, likely, if they're, wide-eyed and excited about what's going on around them.
Right. Excellent points, Kinsey. I love everything you shared there. Michael J. Brown, last but not least, so I want to ask you a little bit about the defense side of this case, if you don't mind, please. You right now are on one of the biggest criminal cases in the country, the Gilgo Beach homicide case, and you've been the one selected to represent Rex Heuermann. Here the defense is making waves. They were mad after day number one about what they said was a disproportionate number of black jurors being brought in as opposed to the white jurors that were brought in the pool. We have a tweet from the Reverend Al Sharpton we want to share here. He's saying he's keeping a very close eye on this case and had this to say, quote, "It's been brought to my attention by the National Action Network Los Angeles office that out of 106 people called in to potentially sit as jurors in A$AP Rocky's trial in LA, there are only 4 black people. It is absolutely ridiculous that the jury will not be fair and representative so as to deprive A$AP Rocky of a fair trial. Something appears to be very wrong with the system." Okay, Michael, so what happens this morning? How much do you jump up and down if you're representing A$AP Rocky to try to make sure you get the pool that you feel is representative?
Julie, great question. And obviously you're entitled to a jury of your peers, and that should be representative of the population, including the minority population. What you need to do is make that objection immediately, because the clerk would stand and say, is there an objection to the jury pool, generally the people that are sitting in that courtroom, and that's when you make that objection. And you can continue to make that objection as you go forward. Remember, there's also something called a Batson challenge. So now if you do seat an African American, for instance, and the prosecutor uses a peremptory challenge on that person, it's important for the defense to make a big stink and have them articulate a reason why they are excluding that witness, that potential juror. And you really have to build up a record for appeal. The judge has already denied that aspect of it, but it's really now about protecting the record down the road in the event that he loses.
That's a really helpful legal explainer. Thank you for that, Michael. We're going to watch for that. Maybe we see a Batson challenge, as you said, happen today. Maybe with cameras we get to see this. Michael J. Brown, I know you're very busy with your law practice, but you could be a professor. That was a great explainer. Thank you for that. And I know we're going to have to let Kinsey get going. Kinsey, you have a new show. So before we say goodbye to you, tell us about that, please.
Oh, thank you so much. It's Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, and lots of Hollywood gossip. So if you love gossip, come join us.
Yes. Oh, we're all going to check it out. Congratulations on that, and it's so great to have you back on the program. We're going to hit a break, my friends. When we come back, here's what's coming up on Opening Statements.
So I came to live with her after my dad died, and since then, there's just been kind of times when things boil over with her.
Spotlighting the teenager who allegedly murdered his mother months after he killed his father. We've got a psychology expert joining us next live to analyze Collin Griffith. And the Black Swan, Ashley Benefield, back in court this morning. She wants out of jail. She just walked into the courtroom. This is what she looks like now. I will take you into the courtroom and watch all the proceedings together when Court TV Live begins. Next week, Court TV will be bringing you the trial of a Florida teenager who's accused of killing his mother. But the bizarre twist is that he also killed his father. So this morning, we're shining the spotlight on 17-year-old defendant Collin Griffith, and also the strange set of circumstances that led up to the deaths of his parents. So we know Collin shot and killed his father, Charles, in February of 2023 in Oklahoma. Investigators ruled it to be a case of self-defense. Then a few months later, deputies removed Collin from his mother's Florida home after he threatened her life.
I'm in a constant state of fight or flight, and I don't know. If I think she's going to do something, even if she's not, I might act. I'm not gonna like go crazy or anything, but I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay. You're not sure if you're gonna hurt?
Only if she tries to hurt me.
A year later, Collin allegedly stabbed his mother, Catherine, to death, and he claims that she fell on the knife, which police say doesn't match up with the case evidence. So were there any missed red flags? Could anything else have been done to protect this mother? Let's bring in our guest. Still with me, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown, and want to welcome in forensic psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman. Dr. Carol, Collin told his grandmother that he's not a psychopath when he was arrested for domestic violence in 2023. I have a clip. Let's take a look.
I was saying, Mom, I'm not a psychopath. I'm not this murderer. I'm just trying to peacefully leave or peacefully coexist and just figure something out. And she kept telling me to shut up and shut up. And when I wouldn't shut up, she hit me.
No, that's not what happened, Collin. That's not what happened. You never said you wanted to peacefully coexist.
I've been saying that.
Okay, Dr. Carol, what do you think when you have someone saying they're not a psychopath? Does that mean they might be a psychopath?
Yes, that is a clue that either they know that they're a psychopath because of what they know about psychopaths, you know, what they've seen on television or read or whatever, or even perhaps because they had seen a mental health professional who used that terminology towards them.
Appreciate it, Dr. Carol. This kid, you know, he's so calm. He's so calm in some of the clips, you know, when he recounts what happened to his dad. Let's go back where one of the officers is talking with his mother, and this is body camera footage, and she's really scared for Mom. This was a year before Mom was killed. Police were called to the house after an incident where Collin apparently threatened his mother, and the police seem maybe even more shaken up than Mom. Let's watch.
I struggle with a kid that's being released from jail and saying, if you bring me back there, she's gonna die.
If we don't do something, then,
shame on us.
Yeah, then we're not.
Shame on us that
then
we didn't do our
failed.
job and we failed you. And I'm not failing you.
And that was how investigators say this happened, that his mother was trying to bring him back home. He was apparently at his grandmother's house when he allegedly killed his mom because she was trying to bring him home to her house because she said he was violating his probation on a domestic violence case. And that's how police say it happened. Dr. Carol, what do you think when you hear that clip and then you know that 1 year later, Mom, according to Collin, fell on a knife?
Yes, very poor excuse, very poor choice for an alibi. Someone falling on a knife and they killed themselves, basically. This is such a sad story because there were so many opportunities were missed to prevent both the killing of the father and then particularly the domestic violence towards the mother and then the killing of the mother. I mean, the police should have, he was communicating to everybody. Maybe it was saying, I'm not a psychopath, but he was telling people, you know, something is going to happen. It's not safe. They were each saying that it's not safe. And yet, so it's not just law enforcement or the legal system that failed. It's also, he was Baker acted. He was made to go into a psychiatric hospital for involuntarily because of his being a danger to others. Presumably that was what he was admitted on. And then they let him out. And then they were about to let him out, and then they put him back for 3 more days, and then they let him out. And then this happened. And so clearly, that was wrong. They should not have let him out. I think he is a psychopath. The way you were describing, the way that he was standing there in all the times that we saw him, he was so cool and calm and collected. And his, yet his parents were either battered. He stomped on his mother during the domestic violence incident. And I mean, it was crying out. He was crying out to be stopped. He's even said, I'd rather go to foster care than to be with my mother. So many people saw and yet didn't see. I mean, refused to see, including the psychiatrist. I mean, he should never have been let out of the psychiatric hospital.
Right. Amen. Dr. Carroll, love everything you just shared there. Thank you for that. Michael J. Brown, want to pick your brain, please, about a big legal decision that came yesterday from the court. So investigators, after Catherine Griffith was killed, they uncovered text messages between her and Collin in which they say she was going to expose him for unlawfully killing his dad, that she essentially was of the opinion, it appears, that it wasn't a self-defense incident, and apparently was threatening to make that public or expose him in some way. And we haven't gotten to see all the messages, but from what we could gather in court. And the defense said, well, these shouldn't come in, these are prejudicial. The judge decided that they will come in, but the jury can't know that it was his own dad that he killed. They can only know that he killed someone in self-defense, but they cannot know it was his own father. What do you think about that ruling, Michael?
Yeah, listen, everything is prejudicial. Every piece of evidence is prejudicial. So the standard always, as you know, Julie, is prejudicial versus probative. Does the probative value outweigh the prejudicial effect? Now here, you can argue, the defense can, that it's hearsay, that it's a statement made out of court, offered in court for the truth of the matter asserted. That's our 101 evidence definition. But it's not being offered for the truth in the sense that I'm really going, from Mom's standpoint, she's really going to tell somebody. Whether she is or not isn't the point. The point is she's conveying that thought to the defendant and saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And the sole purpose is what the prosecution, I assume, would argue, to introduce that is to show why the defendant engaged in the course of conduct that he did in response to this text message. So great ruling. Now, in terms of the father and killing the father, yeah, that's not relevant for this jury. What's important is, hey, I'm going to expose what you did. It doesn't matter who I allege you killed, but it's about what I'm going to expose, and then the reaction subsequent to that. So, yeah, I would agree with that ruling, yes.
Michael, thank you so much for the legal analysis there. Dr. Carroll, before we have to say goodbye to you, I want to ask you, please, about how dangerous you think Collin Griffith may be.
I think he's extremely dangerous. For example, he obviously doesn't like people telling him what to do, or doesn't like people, saying something that contradicts what he wants. So next on his list would have been his grandmother, or if he were put into foster care, it would have been the foster care parents, or just somebody, who he comes in contact with randomly. So yes, he should be kept in jail forever. I mean, he's a very dangerous young man, and one only can wonder, at least so far, unless more comes out, one only can wonder what happened to him when he was growing up, to make him that cruel, that much of a sociopath.
Right. That's a great question. I can't wait till we get perhaps an answer to that when this trial starts next week. I would love to have you both on for some more analysis then. We got to say goodbye for now. Big thank you to you both for your time and expertise. Michael J. Brown, Dr. Carol Lieberman, we'll see you soon. When we come back, we're talking about the Black Swan, Ashley Benefield, in court. She wants out of jail. That's right. She doesn't want to be a jailbird while she waits on her appeal.
How are we doing, guys? We're good? Okay.
You're on very shaky ground.
That is unreal.
People wanted answers, and people started locking their doors.
I did not do it to hurt anybody.
You know what it means. You know what you did, right?
Please hear me out. Please. this was a real-life soap opera.
I said, OJ, everybody thinks you're guilty.
Call now.
He kept coming at me.
Okay, so then you keep shooting again. And he falls down. On his back?
His legs went up in the air.
Okay, where do his legs go?
In the air.
How high in the air?
I don't know.
Do they go over his head?
I don't know. It's like his feet slipped out.
Now for what's tipping the scales, the Black Swan is back in the courtroom this morning. A bond hearing underway for defendant Ashley Benefield. She was convicted of unlawfully killing her husband, Doug Benefield, back in 2020. And she's been sentenced to serve a 20-year-long prison sentence for her crime. Now, her lawyers have filed a motion asking for her to get out of jail while they're waiting on a ruling on their motion for a new trial. Her attorney is making claims of juror misconduct, claims of an unfair trial, and claims that the judge made several errors. The bond hearing's underway right now, so let's get you in that Florida courtroom. The defense has called their first witness of the morning. It is Ashley Benefield's supervised release officer while she was on bond previously.
Good morning. Could you state your full name?
Sure. Janelle Kuzmeyer.
And how are you employed?
I am a supervised release officer with Manatee County Probation.
How long have you been doing that?
Coming up on 10 years.
And do you know the defendant in this case?
I do.
How do you know her?
I was her supervised release officer for 4 years.
How long was Miss Benefield out on bond?
She was out on bond for 4 years with me.
And did you monitor her that entire period?
I did.
Was Ms. Benefield on GPS monitoring when she was released?
The whole time, yes.
Did she ever violate any terms of her monitoring?
She did not.
Did she ever violate any other terms of her release?
She did not.
Did she abide by the terms of her curfew?
Yes, she did.
And did you have any issues with Ms. Benefield otherwise?
I did not.
Did she keep in contact with you?
She did, yes.
Was she honest with you?
I'm sorry?
Was she honest with you?
As far as I know, yes.
Did Ms. Benefield maintain employment while she was out on bond?
She worked for several different employers, but I don't know if it was consistently through the 4 years, but she did have several different jobs.
Were there times during your monitoring period that the court granted Ms. Benefield permission to travel outside of the jurisdiction?
Yes, one time out of state and at least, I believe, 2 times to Orlando.
Did she keep you advised of the details of that travel, including dates, times of when she was leaving and returning and where she would be staying?
Yes, she was very good about communicating those things.
Do you have any reason to believe that Ms. Benefield would be a flight risk if released on bond pending appeal?
Based on my 4 years with her, I don't have anything that jumps to me thinking that she would flee. No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross?
No question.
Can the witness be excused?
Yes.
State?
Yes.
All right, ma'am, you're excused. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, your next witness.
The defense calls Dr. Barbara Russell.
I do in the sentencing. I don't remember if doing this one.
Okay, so witness number 1, there was a quick witness getting ready for witness number 2. You're going to see it all next on Court TV Live. That is all for this episode of Opening Statements. You can watch it or share this episode again if you want. Just go to courttv.com to do that. Click on the Shows tab.